Hello, this is Judy, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the Toronto Star March 2nd, 2026 issue on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. I will do my best to pronounce all names and words correctly, yet please forgive me if I do not. Here is our first article. This is under the latest, it's a breaking article, the latest. Iranian-backed militias join fighting as conflict widens and intensifies. Iran and Iran-backed militias fired missiles at Israel and Arab states, apparently hitting the U.S. Embassy compound in Kuwait, while Israel and the United States pounded targets in Iran as the war expanded Monday, with statements of defiance and increasing casualties. And this article is written by the Associated Press. Iran and Iranian-backed militias fired missiles at Israel and Arab states, apparently hitting the U.S. Embassy compound in Kuwait, while Israel and the United States pounded targets in Iran as the war expanded Monday, with statements of defiance and increasing casualties. In the chaos, the U.S. military said that Kuwait mistakenly shot down 3 American F-15E Strike Eagles during a combat mission. At least 555 people have been killed in Iran so far by the U.S.-Israel campaign, the Iranian Red Crescent Society said, and more than 130 cities across the country have come under attack. In Israel, 11 people have been killed, with 31 in Lebanon, according to authorities. Iranian cleric Arzira Arfi, and that's Alireza Arafi, delivering his first public remarks since he was made a member of Iran's Temporary Leadership Council, said he hoped that a new supreme leader would be quickly appointed to replace Ali Khamenei, and that's Khameni. Here's the latest. Energy prices surge. European natural gas futures are spiking 42% in the wake of the shutdown of a major supplier of shipborne gas due to the fighting in the Middle East. The futures contract for April delivery just shot up to 45.46 euros, which is $53.26, on the ICE Commodities Exchange. The jump came after Qatar Energy said it would stop its production of liquefied natural gas as the Mideast war rages on. The state-owned firm blamed the war for the decision. More U.S. forces are being deployed in position. Joint Chiefs Chairman says Air Force General Dan Caine, and that's C-A-I-N-E, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, told reporters that more forces are being deployed. The deployment already includes thousands of service members from all branches, including Reserve and National Guard forces, hundreds of advanced fighters, dozens of refueling tankers, the Lincoln and Ford Carrier Strike Group, and their embarked air wings. The joint force has launched hundreds of missions over land and sea, Cooper said. Caine noted especially the Wisconsin Army National Guard units that are operating in Kuwait and Iraq, and Air National Guard units from a variety of states to include Vermont and Virginia. This is not Iraq. This is not endless, in quotes from Hegseth. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the military operations in Iran are the most precise aerial operations in history. Decrying Tehran's expansionist and Islamic regime, Hegseth referenced violence in places across Iraq, Afghanistan, and Lebanon as proxies in more than 4 decades he said were part of a savage, one-sided war against America. Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult, Hegseth told a news conference at the Pentagon. Hegseth said the U.S. is not engaged in a nation-building effort in Iran, and that ongoing strikes on Iran have a clear mission and won't be the prelude to a long, sustained conflict. This is not Iraq. This is not endless, he said. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change, and the world is better off for it. Cyprus to protest use of UK military bases. Cyprus said it is displeased that Britain did not make clear its intentions to use its military bases in Cyprus in a capacity other than for humanitarian purposes. Government spokesman Konstantinos Lamatabosis, let me just spell that, Constantinos Lamybiotis, said Cypriot authorities had assurances from UK officials that the bases would only be used for strictly in a humanitarian capacity. Lamatabosis said protests will be lodged with the UK government to express Cyprus' displeasure. He left open the possibility that the Cypriot government would possibly open negotiations with the UK regarding the base's status. Global markets rattled. Military strikes on Iran rattled global markets on Monday, with U.S. futures following markets in Europe and Asia lower. Energy prices rose sharply. Futures for the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average each sank about 1%. Travel sectors from airlines and cruise operators to global hotel chains tumbled. Natural gas futures rose early 6%, and futures for fuel used for transportation as well as industrial purposes spiked more than 14%. Germany's DAX dropped 1.9% to 24,817.42, while in Paris, the CAC 40 lost 1.7% to 8,435.80. Britain's FTSE 100 slipped 1% to 10,808.53. Shares fell in most Asian markets, but they rose in Shanghai, where higher oil prices lifted some oil company stocks such as CNOOC, China Petroleum and Chemical, and PetroChina to the 10% limit. The Shanghai Composite Index climbed 0.5% to 4,182.49, while in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng lost 2.1% to 26,059.85. Japan's Nikkei, NIKKEI 225 index initially fell more than 2%. Gold, a safe haven for investment in times of uncertainty, rose 3.1% to about $5,408.10 per ounce. Cyprus says two drones targeting air bases have been intercepted. Cyprus said two drones moving in the direction of a British air base on the island have been intercepted. Cyprus government spokesman Konstantinos Lambatoulas posted on X that the two drones were heading towards RAF Akrotiri Air Base. Sirens sounded at around 1,000 GMT at the key base, minutes before two Typhoon fighter jets and a pair of F-35s took off, ostensibly to intercept the drones. The sirens stopped an hour later, with the aircraft landing shortly after. Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulis, Christodoulides, said earlier that a Shahed-type drone had caused minor damage when it struck inside the base just after midnight. Fourth U.S. soldier dies. Central Command. A U.S. soldier has died during the war with Iran, the U.S. Central Command announced on Monday, bringing the official total to 4. The soldier was wounded during the initial stage of Operation Epic Fury and died on Monday, it said. A total of 4 U.S. soldiers have been killed since Israel and the U.S. launched strikes against Iran on Saturday. U.S. President Donald Trump said in a video posted to his Truth Social platform on Sunday that, sadly, there will likely be more before it ends. That's the way it is, likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. Government scrambled to return stranded travelers. Countries across the world are scrambling to bring citizens home who are stranded in the Middle East. Qatar Airways and Etihad Airways said flights remain suspended, with its next update planned for Tuesday morning, while Jordan announced a partial closure of its airspace. About 30,000 German tourists are currently stranded on cruise ships, in hotels, or at closed airports. Air France canceled flights to and from Tel Aviv, Beirut, Dubai, and Riyadh, while carriers from Air India to KML suspended flights and issued advisories. The Czech Republic is sending 2 planes to Egypt and Jordan to bring home Czech nationals. Prime Minister Andrej Babiš said 4 more planes are heading to Muscat and Salalah, it's Sallah, in Oman to fly home Czech tourists. In Asia, thousands of travelers were stranded on Indonesia's tourist island of Bali because international flights were canceled. Bali's international airport said at least 15 flights, including 8 departures and 7 arrivals, en routes to Dubai, Doha, and Abu Dhabi, were canceled as of Monday afternoon. Putin speaks to UAE President Kremlin. Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke Monday to the United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan to discuss the unprecedented tragic events in the Middle East in the context of the American-Israel aggression against Iran and Tehran's harsh retaliatory actions, the Kremlin said. Putin noted that Russia had sought to help facilitate a settlement of the situation regarding the Iranian nuclear program, but those efforts were thwarted by an unprovoked act of armed aggression against a sovereign UN member state in violation of the fundamental principles of international law. Al Nahyan, and that's Nahyan, Nahyan, described the Iranian strikes on the Emirates as completely unjustified, noting that the country's territory wasn't used for launching attacks in Iran. Putin expressed his readiness to convey these signals to Tehran and to provide all possible assistance to stabilize the overall situation in the region, the Kremlin said. Britain, not at war, minister says. Britain is not at war, the government said Monday, despite saying it would allow the U.S. to use British bases during its war with Iran and after a Royal Air Force base in Cyprus was struck by an Iranian-made drone. Sirens sounded again at the RAF Akrotiri on Monday, and British air warplanes were scrambled, apparently in response to a new threat. The UK is not at war, Middle East Minister Hamish Falconer said Monday. He told the BBC Iran has ballistic missiles pointed at the Gulf, and it is vital that those missile launchers are taken out in the face of these completely reckless attacks. Greece sends naval vessels to Cyprus. Greece is sending 2 frigates and 2 fighter jets to Cyprus after attacks against a British base on the island. Defense Minister Nikos Dendias said one of the frigates was equipped with an anti-drone system recently tested in a European Union-led deployment in the Red Sea to protect international shipping. Greece will continue in every possible way to the defense of the Republic of Cyprus in order to confront the threats and unlawful actions taking place on its territory, Dendias said. There will have to be dialogue at some point. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi expressed hope that a diplomatic process will resume with regard to Iran's nuclear program, highlighting the indispensable role that the UN nuclear watchdog could play in such a scenario. My hope is that we will be back at the negotiating table sooner than later. It is obvious that after this military conflict ends, and we all hope that this will be very, very soon, we will still need to have a long, durable solution, which will provide a sense of predictability and a sense of certainty for Iran and neighboring countries. Grossi told reporters after the special session of the IAEA Board of Governors in Vienna. The IAEA chief underlined that there is recognition that there will have to be a dialogue at some point. Qatar Energy to halt LNG production. Qatar Energy, one of the world's top natural gas producers, said it is halting production of liquefied natural gas, taking one of the world's top suppliers off the market. Due to the military attacks on Qatar's Energy's operating facilities in Ras Laffan Industrial City and Masjid Industrial City in the state of Qatar, Qatar Energy has ceased production of liquefied natural gas and associated products. It said, Qatar Energy values its relationships with all of its stakeholders and will continue to communicate the latest available information. It offered no timeline for restoring its production. Lebanon says Hezbollah's attack on Israel is an illegal attack. Lebanon President Joseph Aoun, A-O-U-N, said Hezbollah's rocket attack on Israel were illegal acts, adding that such activities gave Israel a pretext to destroy the country. The government held a 5-hour cabinet meeting to discuss the Hezbollah action that triggered massive Israel retaliation and the displacement of tens of thousands of people. Information Minister Paul Morkos cited Aoun as saying that what happened overnight was not to defend Lebanon or protect the Lebanese people. What are witnessing is building collapsing on their residents as they sleep. Attack on Israel's Beersheba. Israel's rescue services said that at least 15 people were injured by Iranian missiles in the southern city of Beersheba. Searches are ongoing for additional victims. Several missiles barrages targeted Israel from Iran on Monday. Etihad extends suspension of flights. Long-haul carrier Etihad and its Etihad Airways said in an update that all flights to and from its base in the Emirati capital, Abu Dhabi, will now be suspended until 2 p.m. local time on Tuesday. Etihad, like fellow Gulf Airlines, Emirates, and Qatar Airways, mainly serves long-haul travelers whose plans have been disrupted by the closure of regional airspace. Oil prices surge. The price of oil jumped as tanker disruptions near the Strait of Hormuz raised fears about supply shortages from the Persian Gulf. U.S. oil rose to about 71.97 cents a barrel on Monday, and Brent climbed to about 78.46 cents a barrel. Higher prices increased the risk of costlier gasoline and pricier goods. The UK Maritime Centre also reported attacks on vessels and warned of heavy electronic interference. Oman said that a drone boat hit an oil tanker and killed one mariner. Saudi media said drones hit near Ras Tanura in Saudi Arabia shut the refinery as a precaution. Traffic through the strategic Strait of Hormuz, HOMRUZ, has sharply dropped following the U.S.-Israel weekend strikes in Iran. MarineTraffic.com said the transit through the choke point has fallen by 70% since Saturday. It said that it has noticed changes in vessels' navigation in the past 3 days, including U-turns, idling, reduced speeds, and last-minute diversions. Newly appointed Iranian cleric makes first comments. Iranian cleric Arazia Arfi, A-R-A-F-I, has delivered some of his first public remarks since he was made a member of Iran's Temporary Leadership Council. In remarks aired on state television, Arfi said he hoped that a new supreme leader would be quickly appointed. The 88-seat Assembly of Experts, a group of mostly hardline clerics, will choose former Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei's replacement, but no clear successor is in place. ARFI is serving on a temporary leadership council that includes President Masoud Pezeshkian and Iran's hardline judiciary chief Gholamhossein Gulbasan Mohsena EGEI. ARFI added that the state institutions were continuing to function under these extremely difficult circumstances. This article was written by the Associated Press. This next article is titled, "The number of Ontarians over 80 is about to surge. Advocates say the Ford government needs a strategy." With more than 1.5 million Ontarian plus Ontarians expected by 2041, some say the province needs a master plan for growing old. And this article is written by Maura Welsh of the Queen's Park Bureau. Ontario's oldest of the old, those who have passed their 80th birthday, will surge in numbers over the next 15 years, but Premier Doug Ford's approach to this massive demographic shift is stuck in the past, advocates say. Multiple ministries offer piecemeal programs, but the expectation of more than 1.5 million Ontarians occupying the 80 years and plus cohort by 2041 means the province needs a master plan for growing old, said Laura Tambien-Watts, CEO of CanAge, a national advocacy organization. With global aging defined by the World Health Organization and United Nations as a mega trend equal to artificial intelligence and climate emergencies, Tambien-Watts is among the leaders calling on Ford to create an aging secretariat or a ministry of longevity with a plan to support a population that can statistically expect many extra decades in life. This is not a call for prevention, it's a call for planning, she said. We are tired of crisis. We are tired of crisis funding. California, New York State, and Massachusetts have shattered traditional government silos by mandating that an aging filter be applied across all government departments. Ontario, while offering some innovative programs, appears wedded to the status quo. Our government is taking action and making record investments to connect people of all ages to the care and support they need close to home or in the comfort of their own home, said a statement from the Premier's office. Noting Ontario's new pilot project for emotion-based models of care in nursing homes, the government also cited a paramedicine program that has helped 85,000 seniors age safely in their homes for longer, and a $2.1 billion plan to expand primary care through the work of medical professionals in every corner of the province. The demographic shift, already well underway, led to a 2019 executive order signed by California Governor Gavin Newsom to create a master plan for aging. In a 5-year follow-up report, Newsom said it has led to similar programs in dozens of other states. As long expected, Ontario attained super age status this year. The number of people living in Ontario aged 65 or older will grow from 2.6 million in 2020 to 4.2 million in 2040, an expansion of over 60%, said a 2024 report by Dali Lana School of Public Health. Centenarians are a smaller but fast-growing population. The massive cohort of millennials will soon reach the so-called younger-older phase of life, with the eldest turning 50 in 5 years. Aging master plans don't stop with healthcare. They consider policies on housing, caregiving, isolation, economics, and the extreme personal cost of a long life, which can be debilitating for older women who live longer and often have limited pensions or savings. A 2024 report on the megatrend of aging by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development concluded that among its member countries, older women are more likely to be poor, 17%, than men, 11%. Aging OECD concluded will be a major challenge for social protection systems. Ontario is supporting innovation, including a Hamilton land swamp that turned an empty nursing home into a supportive housing after residents moved into a new facility, said Donna Ducan, CEO of the Ontario Long Care Association. But Ducan added, new projects do not negate the need for an aging secretariat or an appointee mandated by the Premier to bring the lens of longevity to government decisions. In Ontario, an aging plan could examine gaps in transit routes or the need for better home care in rural communities. Or, Ducan said, it could prepare in advance for projected illnesses such as those highlighted in the Dalai Lama report, which predicts more than half of Ontarians aged 65 or older will live with a major illness by 2040. Ducan's association represents nursing home operators, but with new builds and other community-related programs added to the homes. She now meets with municipal government or the ministries of health, social services, transportation, housing, education, and infrastructure. It's not just the long-term care ministry anymore, she said. Lisa Levin, CEO of Advantage Ontario, which represents supportive housing and not-for-profit nursing home operators, said the complications of managing decisions from numerous ministries means groups trying to build housing that helps people remain in their communities have to negate a bureaucratic labyrinth. During submissions ahead of Finance Minister Pete Bethlenfalvy's, and that's Bethlenfalvy, spring budget, Levin's report called for a system-wide view for seniors' care that focuses on upstream solutions. While she is not seeking an office devoted to aging, Levin's report, presented to the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs, calls for a new playbook to diminish hospital stays or emergency long-term placements. Build capacity where it prevents crisis, not only where it receives them. Do it in a practical, affordable way that will relieve pressure on the entire system, the report said. Part of the answer, Levin said, is updating existing affordable housing stock, which is often run down, and adding built-in home care or social supports. This can be done really simply, she said, and have a very, very strong impact. Maura Welsh is a Toronto-based reporter covering Ontario politics for The Star. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article is under sports. It's under basketball, and the title is How One Toronto High School Teacher Tackled the Challenge of Funding an Athletic Program Amid Budget Cuts. Western Tech basketball coach Raymond Tone turned to the local community to raise money via sponsorship packages. And this article is written by Gilbert Nagabu, NGABO, who's a sports reporter. Raymond Tone remembers growing up in Toronto through the public school system at a time when access to extracurricular activities was taken for granted. The teacher and basketball coach at Western Technical Commercial School says sports programs, coaches, and equipment aren't a given anymore because of fiscal uncertainty that is affecting high school departments across the Toronto District School Board, including athletics. Some schools have managed to navigate the challenges better than others. Tone, who was at Richview Collegiate before transferring to Western Tech a couple of years ago, said he found the lack of access to sports resources more pronounced there than at his previous school. A pragmatist at heart, he decided to jump into action. After consulting with school principal Mark Skolji, KOCZIJ, and other staff members, Tone turned to the local community for help. It boiled down to money, Tone told The Star. We needed money to keep these programs open and keep them sustainable. Having grown up in Toronto's Bloor West Corridor, where the majority of kids attended Western Tech, Tone figured the best way was to walk the streets surrounding the school near Bloor Street West and Runnymede Road. He stopped at every mom and pop shop and small businesses in the area, pleading his case for funds and presenting a rough sponsorship package. He could not have been happier with the response. Once they knew how they could make a donation or sponsor our basketball program, so many of these businesses were all in, he said. Part of the sales pitch was highlighting the fact that the school had access to more than 1,500 families every year in the community. Business owners also bought into the notion of community building. Once it became clear that by associating with the basketball program, they would also be seeing the progress of the teams and how well the kids were performing, it became a no-brainer. Western Tech has been a staple in this community for many years, so it was quite an easy sell, said Tone. The school looks like a castle and it's so old, but everybody knows where it is, and they were more than willing to donate or sponsor. They understood that every little bit helps, and I'm so glad we were able to make it work. Businesses that signed up as sponsors could have their logos printed on the giant school banner that hangs in the gym, their name and image on the school's 24-hour announcement screen, a thank you note in the school newsletter, or have their brands promoted via the school's social media channels. The campaign, which ran for 6 weeks before the basketball season started in early November, raised more than $6,000 that helped the team get better uniforms and improve travel for games. The junior boys basketball team benefited and won the Toronto Championship last week after dominating the season. Food for Good, a nonprofit based in Niagara Falls that works to provide full-service healthy meals to students across Ontario, was among the first to sponsor the campaign. Founder and CEO Michael Rizzo said it was easy to offer support because it aligns with the core values of his initiative: community empowerment and sustainability, in addition to tackling food insecurity. I am a big believer in athletics for young people, Rizzo said. Seeing these financial challenges makes me more passionate about being part of conversations and collaborations to look for solutions. It's all about giving back. Tone said a lack of funding for public schools has led to the growth of paid for-profit athletic clubs across the province, some of which are run inside TBSB facilities and make it easier for teachers and staff to work there rather than volunteering at public school clubs. He believes a financing model rooted in community partnerships should become part of the job description for those working in school athletic departments to help counter the financial struggles many school boards are facing. It's very sustainable, and the community is very open to it, Tone said, noting he was a bit surprised that well-established franchises were reticent to step up compared to small shops. Hopefully, our team can go on a very good run of success, and maybe these giant corporations will see what they are missing. And Gilbert Nagaboli is a Toronto-based sports reporter for The Star. This next article is under business, and the title is 5 Things to Watch For in the Canadian Business World in the Coming Week. And this article is written by the Canadian Press. 5 Things to Watch For in the Canadian Business World this coming week. Carney Roadshow. Prime Minister Mark Carney is on the road this week looking to grow Canada's economic ties to countries other than the United States. He began his trip by flying to India and landing in Mumbai before heading to New Delhi. Carney will also visit Australia this week with stops in both Sydney and Canberra before heading to Tokyo on Friday. Macklem Chat. Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem, and that's Macklem, will participate in a fireside chat with Sonia Baxendale, Chief Executive of the Global Risk Institute in Toronto on Wednesday morning. The appearance comes ahead of Bank of Canada's next interest rate announcement set for March 18th. Spin Master results. Toy maker and children's entertainment company Spin Master Corp is expected to report its fourth quarter results and hold a conference call on Thursday morning before markets open. Spin Master is one of the several companies owed money by Toys R Us Canada, which is operating under court protection from creditors. South Bow earnings. South Bow Corp, the operator of the Keystone cross-border crude oil pipeline, reports fourth quarter results on Thursday after the close of the markets. The Calgary-based company has said it could leverage its existing infrastructure to send more oil to U.S. markets. Canadian Natural Resources results. Oil and gas giant Canadian Natural Resources Limited reports fourth quarter results on Friday morning. The Calgary-based company is a major oil sands player and one of the country's biggest natural gas producers. And this report is written by the Canadian Press. This next article is an opinion article, and the title is Big Tech is Selling Me Something. Here's what I'm doing instead of buying. And this article is written by Elizabeth Renzetti, and that's Renzetti, who's a contributing columnist, and she's a Toronto-based contributing columnist for The Star and author of What She Said, Conversations About Equality. Have you ever been hustled by a salesperson? Buy now or you'll lose out. You big loser, only to arrive home wondering what it is exactly you bought? It feels like we're at that moment, not because of a blender that's too big for the counter, but rather because we're being sold technology that is upending our lives. Perhaps you also feel this agitation as the tools of artificial intelligence creep without invitation into your life while you wonder, like the guy in the Talking Heads song, how did I get here? You're certainly not alone. Look at the people who oppose new resource-sucking data centers in their communities. The artists fighting to protect their creativity and livelihoods, the researchers studying amplified bias, the market watchers shouting about AI bubbles. The federal government is definitely the sweaty-browed salesperson in the scenario. It has championed a bold strategy for Canada's AI framework, a sprint towards imagined future prosperity. What that looks like in the short run, Artificial Intelligence Minister Evan Solomon failing to take meaningful action when X's chatbot Grok was undressing women and girls online, and failing to hold OpenAI accountable when the company admitted it knew of alarming activity on the ChatGPT account of the mass killer in the Tumbler Ridge, BC. Solomon called OpenAI executives in for a meeting, but they left not with a slap on the wrist and barely even a gentle tickle. If you wanted to have a say in the government's AI strategy, you're out of luck. Maybe you missed the month-long period in October in which the public's opinion was solicited alongside a task force composed of academics, NGOs, and a lot of tech industry insiders. It was a busy month. The Blue Jays were on a roll. There were skeletons to hang on the door. In what world is 30 days enough for all Canadians to have a say about a transformative technology? But there is a place where Canadians can express their hopes and anxieties. It's called the People's Consultation on AI, created to protest and reject the deeply misguided and wrong-headed approach to public consultation demonstrated by the government's 30-day national sprint. The consultation, endorsed by more than 160 academics, unions, tech groups, and human rights organizations, is open to input from the public until March 15th. After that, submissions will be posted on the site for everyone to read and presented to politicians in Ottawa. And no, the results will not be analyzed by AI. The People's Consultation is intended not just to counter the haste of the government's consultation process, but also the makeup of the AI task force, which critics say is too heavily weighted towards the tech and AI industry and not representative of those who have concerns about AI's environmental consequences and potential for labor upheaval. The BC Civil Liberties Association is one of the groups endorsing the People's Consultation, and I talked to its policy staff counsel, Aislinn Jackson, about why public input is so vital. We need to listen to people who have real concerns and take them seriously, because we can't put this toothpaste back in the tube once these technologies are widespread and people have integrated them into their workflows, Jackson said. It will be very hard to claw back privacy and human rights and any sort of expectations we might have about how we want to be governed and how we want these technologies to serve us, rather than the other way around. Will Ottawa heed the results of the People's Consultation? I have my doubts. The government has quietly released a summary analyzed using AI tools of the input it received from its short consultation, and I highly recommend reading it. More than 11,000 respondents provided submission through an online portal, and the task force produced 32 reports. The online submissions were particularly interesting. In short, people want guardrails. Respondents warned of an environmental harm, privacy risk, and job displacement, urging Canada to adopt a cautious, evidence-based approach. They called for ethical guidelines, regulatory clarity, and sector-specific standards to ensure AI improves efficiency without undermining human judgment. Just because Ottawa calls this a sprint doesn't mean the race is over. There is still time to make your voice heard. Our next article is under GTA, and the title is Police Increasing Presence Around Places of Worship, Cultural Centers in Toronto and GTA After U.S.-Israel Attack on Iran. A group of Canadian police chiefs has said the fallout of conflict doesn't pose an imminent threat to Canada, but warned Canadians to be vigilant. And this article is written by Maya Tustonic, Tustonic, who is a staff reporter. Police services in the Greater Toronto area say they are boosting their presence around places of worship after the United States and Israel attacked Iran on Saturday. The attack killed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's theocratic supreme leader, prompting celebration for many members of the Iranian diaspora in Toronto. It also prompted Iran and Iranian-backed militants to fire retaliatory missiles at Israel and several Arab countries with ties to the U.S. A group of Canadian police chiefs has said the fallout of the conflict doesn't pose an imminent threat to Canada, but warned Canadians to be vigilant. Experience shows that periods of geopolitical tension can sometimes inspire extremist networks, hate-motivated individuals, or proxy-related threat actors to exploit these situations to incite hate-fueled violence, the association said. Toronto Police has said that the service is closely monitoring the potential local impacts of the conflict. There will be more patrols around places of worship and consular offices in the city, police said in a post to social media on Saturday. These measures are being taken to support community safety and provide reassurance, police said, encouraging community members to report suspicious activity or safety concerns. York Police said it would be stepping up patrols near faith-based institutions, community centers, schools, and other public gathering places. We understand that global events can cause local safety concerns and have a profound effect on our communities, police said in a Saturday post on social media. The service said that the measures are proactive and intended to deter hate-motivated activity. York police are investigating the Saturday shooting of a Thornhill boxing gym displaying pre-revolutionary Iranian flags. The gym served as an organizing spot for local rallies in support of anti-government protesters in Iran. Officials would not confirm if the shooting was related to the current conflict. In Durham region, Police said there will be more officers around places of worship and community gathering spaces out of an abundance of caution. Durham Regional Police are monitoring the situation in Iran and recognize that global events like this may raise concerns locally, the service said in a Saturday post on social media. Peel Police also said there will be more officers around places of worship and cultural centers in the region. We are in contact and working with community leaders and organizations to offer support, police wrote in a Saturday post on social media. And Maya Tustanek is a staff reporter with the Toronto Star. You can reach her at her email, which is mtustonikac@_THESTAR.ca. Our next article is under business, and it's under the Money Coach section, and it's an opinion article, The Magic of Compound Interest. Here's how it can build your wealth faster than you expect. And this article is written by Laura Grady, who is a personal finance reporter for The Star. And you can reach her via her email, which is LGRADY@THESTAR.ca. Question: I've heard that compound interest alone can double your money and more over time. Is that true? Answer: it absolutely can. Think of compound interest like a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts small, but it picks up more snow along the way, and by the time it hits bottom, it's grown into a massive boulder. Essentially, compound interest means you're earning interest on both your principal, original deposit, and the accumulated interest from previous periods. That is why it's often described as earning interest on interest. When you make an investment, you earn interest, dividends or market growth in 1 year. Then, in year 2, you earn returns on your original investment plus everything it earned along the way, explained Rob Engen, E-N-G-E-N, advice-only financial planner and personal finance blogger at Boomer and Echo. Interest earned is added back into the principal, forming a new, larger base for future calculations. Compounding can happen anywhere money is allowed to stay invested and reinvest its earning. Egan says, including savings accounts and GICs, which is a guaranteed investment certificates that pay interest, investment accounts such as TFSAs, RRSPs, and non-registered accounts when interest, dividends, and growth are reinvested rather than withdrawn. Let's say you invest $1,000 at an annual interest rate of 5%. After 5 years, without additional contributions, it would have grown to $1,276.28. Here's how the magic happens. In the first year, a 5% returns at $50, bringing the total balance to $1,050. In the second year, that 5% return is applied to the $1,050 instead of the original $1,000, which leads to slightly more growth. Each year, the balance gets larger, so the dollar amount of the growth increases, even though the rate stays the same, Egan explains. Over short periods, it can look underwhelming, but over long periods, it becomes incredibly powerful. The real engine behind compounding is time, Egan said. The earlier you get started, the more compound interest can work its magic. The steeper the hill, the bigger the snowball. You can estimate how long it will take you to double your money with compound interest by using the rule of 72. This is a simple mental shortcut where you divide 72 by the annual rate of return, Egan says. For example, at a 5% rate of return, your money would double in roughly 14.5 years. It is not exact, but it is a helpful way to show how even modest returns can add up over time, Egan said. To make compounding work to its maximum potential, Egan says investors should invest in a low-cost diversified funds, saving regularly, considering setting up automatic contributions to your investments, reinvest earnings, and perhaps most importantly, give the process time. Compounding feels slow and boring early on, then does most of its work later. That's why starting early and staying consistent beats chasing hot investments or jumping in and out of markets, Egan says. Resist the temptations to withdraw that interest and spend it. Egan quotes Charlie Munger. The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. Most investing mistakes come from doing just that, Egan says. The real magic is patient discipline and letting time do the heavy lifting. In other words, sit back, relax, and watch your money grow. And Money Coach is a weekly feature that helps Canadians find helpful solutions to personal finance challenges. This next article is under Ontario, and the title is New Study Finds Sharp Rise in Young Men Contacting Ontario Gambling Helpline. The rate of young men contacting Ontario's mental health helpline for gambling-related problems has increased by more than 300% after the province allowed private online gambling, a new study suggests. And this article is written by Rihanna Lim, Lim, of the Canadian Press. The rate of young men contacting Ontario's mental health helpline for gambling-related problems has increased by more than 300% after the province allowed private online gambling, a new study suggests. The researchers behind the study, published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal on Monday, say the findings represent a need for stronger harm reduction measures and more access to treatment. The study analyzed the number of contacts to Connects Ontario, the province's free 24-hour mental health and addictions helpline for gambling-related concerns from January 2012 to September 2025. It noted an increase after January 2015 when the government launched the gambling platform Play OLG, as well as after the province expanded private online gambling in April of 2022. Over the 13-year period, researchers looked at Connects Ontario was contacted more than 745,700 times. So that's 700,000 times, the study said, and about 37,000 of those contacts were gambling related. The study found that among boys and men aged 15 to 24, the mean monthly rate of gambling-related outreach per million people rose by 317% from the time before Ontario's launch of Play OLG to the period after the privatization of online gambling. The rate increased about 108% over the same time frame for men aged 25 to 44, the study further found. Prior to the policy changes, the rates were stable, it said. While better awareness of the hotline could be a factor, the spike may not be solely explained by people seeking help for existing problems, said Dr. Daniel Miran, M-I-R-A-N, a research chair at North York General Hospital, who co-authored the study. There's very good evidence that most people with gambling disorders or gambling problems don't seek care, and when they do seek care, it's often through helplines like Connects Ontario, said Myron. The increases that we're seeing in these contacts to the helpline, it is the tip of the iceberg of much larger increases in the number of people who are engaged in gambling and harmful patterns. Myron noted there's been a higher volume of gambling marketing since the privatization of betting in the province. I think that we need to think very carefully about who those ads are reaching and the messages that they're conveying. And I think we need to place restrictions on them because they're right now occurring in venues that are widely seen by youth, he said. When we see that the visits or the contacts have really gone up in young men, I think that this is exactly who's being targeted by the advertisements and who's going to be placing sports bets. The study further found that between the dawn of online gambling privatization in April 2022 and August of last year, the number of active player accounts per 100,000 people aged 15 or older increased from roughly 2,160 to more than 7,300, a 239% increase. Myron added there are concerns about micro betting and other types of gambling that are associated with higher risk of addiction. Let's say that you bet on the outcome of the Super Bowl. It's one bet that you've made, but you can now actually bet on events that occur within the game itself, he said. That means that if you lose money, you might do what's called loss chasing, where you try to re-wager it to win more, and it can really accelerate people into gambling disorders. Ultimately, the study's findings underscore why gambling disorders need to be treated as a public health issue and treatment should be readily available, said Myron. Gambling can have really severe consequences to individuals. People who have gambling disorders are really at high risk of mental health conditions, including self-harm and suicide, Myron said. It can also have a much broader impact on families and communities around them, he added. I think that we have not adequately considered how some of the changes that have occurred may have much broader health implications for society. And this article was written in the Canadian Press. And you have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 2nd, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star. Your reader has been Judy, that's me, and I thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an amazing, wonderful day, and thank you so much. Take care of you.